Hello, my name is John Pontrello, and today is July 31st, which means I am celebrating Uncommon Musical Instrument Day. And to celebrate, I want to share with you two of my favorite instruments that you might not have learned about before. So I got the harp right here, and I got the Tenori-On, and in a moment I'm going to talk about what these two instruments have in common. So, one thing that I want to explain first is, why do I love uncommon instruments? I love uncommon instruments because I feel like each instrument has a personality and can really inspire you, can really take you somewhere. The other reason that I love uncommon instruments is when you learn a new instrument, you have to change the way that you think about music, change the way you approach to music. And when you learn that new instrument, it gives you a new perspective on music once you've kind of understood how an instrument works. So that when I am writing music or I'm playing with other people, regardless of what instrument I'm playing, I take something of all the instruments that I've learned, and it kind of really influences how I see music. Each musical instrument is like a window. And so when I'm working on a piece of music, I can see through all of those windows at once. And I think that is a really unique thing. So I'm really happy to be here talking about what you can gain from learning multiple different instruments. So the first instrument I'm going to focus on is the harp. The harp is a very old instrument, has roots all over the world. Everyone knows about the Irish harp. It's a national instrument. It's also the national instrument in Paraguay. Not as many people know that. It's played totally different. And then there's a lot of different versions of the harp all over the world. In Africa, there's the kora, which kind of has a drum head at the bottom. There's different versions of it in Asia and the Middle East. In the Middle East, it kind of looks like this, except they play it backwards. Or maybe everyone else plays it backwards and they play it frontwards. I don't know. There's just a lot of different ways that you can have one string going from another and then vibrating in a sound box. And that idea, the idea of a string vibrating with other strings, that is what makes the harp part of the chordophone family. So the harp is part of the chordophone family. The guitar, any instrument that has multiple strings and a sound box vibrating together. So a piano is also a chordophone because when you press the keys, it hits strings and they vibrate in the piano sound box. So I also have the Tenori-On, and this looks a lot different, but they actually have a lot in common. The word Tenori-On, so this is a Japanese instrument, electronic instrument. And the word Tenori-On means music in the palm of your hand, and that is exactly what this is. I've got this in the palm of my hand, and I can use it to play some music. So I'm going to talk about, what do these uncommon instruments, what do they have in common? Well, what they have in common is they are both they're both tuned using the diatonic scale. That's the major scale. That's the do, re, mi, fa, sol, la, ti, do. All the white keys of the piano. Both of these instruments right now are tuned in the key of C. So key of C, major scale. So the harp, going from do, re, mi, fa, sol, la, ti, do, that creates one octave. So the harp here's one octave, second octave, third octave, and then you got some more here. So it's like 3.5 octaves. The Tenori-On is, you got 16 buttons right here. So this is roughly about 2.5 octaves. So I'm just going to turn this on so you can hear it. Oops. So you can see that it's expressing the same notes. What makes this unique is that not only do you have the notes going up and down, from left to right, the notes are in time. So depending where you put it, you're automating the notes, kind of like a player piano. So when you have automation happening in an electronic instrument, it's called sequencing. So the Tenori-On is, in addition to being a musical instrument, it's also a sequencer, and you can play 16 different layers at the same time using 256 voices. There's a lot of different sounds that you can get from this thing, and then you can have 16 different blocks that you program and go between. So you can really use this to write whole songs on, which is really cool. So right now, I'm actually using it to control another synthesizer, the Juno 106, and what I like about that is, even though the samples in here are great, I like to be able to have it going to a synthesizer so I can actually control the sound to my imagination. One of the things that I think is interesting about these instruments is the harp is an acoustic instrument, and it's really, you can play with two hands, you know, but because it's physical, you're really limited by that. With electronic music, you have infinite possibilities. There's so much you can do, and this technology is even limited. If you're using a computer, there's just so much stuff you can do. But one thing I think is important is that because technology is so powerful, it is careful that you got to be careful not to let the power of the technology overshadow the personality of the music. You know, so you don't want this to be controlling you. You want to be controlling it. So by learning about instruments like the harp, it can really help you approach something like this. So I'm not going to talk anymore. I'm just going to show you a demonstration of how these instruments work together. All right, I'm going to start by clearing the sound here. So let's see here. And then I'm just going to press a bunch of random buttons. So you can see it's going right now, left to right. And I'm just going to press some random buttons.